Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Life and Literature. Today I'm going to be doing my full review of Chain of Gold, The Lost Hours by Cassandra Clare. If this is something you'd be interested in, then please keep on watching. Hello, welcome to any subscribers, welcome to anybody that's new. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button down below. I do release a video pretty much every week, every 2 weeks, something book related about the different books that I enjoy, things I'm reading and the things that I think about each book. So today I'm doing The Last Hours. I did do a first impressions of this book because it's quite a chunk of a book. I was going to do a review about halfway through about my impressions, what I thought was going to happen towards the end of it, and I'll be honest, I couldn't. I just had to keep reading. It was so exciting and the adrenaline in me was just pumping as I was reading the book that I just had to finish the entire thing. And I did. So I've read all of this entire chunk of a book and I'm going to give my honest review. If you haven't read it already and you don't like spoilers, then this is not the video for you. But if you have read it and you want to get my opinion, or you're looking to read it and you don't mind being spoiled, then by all means keep on watching. But there are some big plot stories, there are some big spoilers that I'm just going to pre-warn you. So with The Chain of Gold, if you didn't see my first impressions, this is a book about a girl called Cordelia Carstairs, who is a shadow hunter, a warrior to defeat demons, and she's been battling and training since she was a young girl. Now what happens is she goes to London with her brother and her mum whilst her father is in Idris, and she is there to basically make friends, get to know people, create strong connections with different families and kind of get a repertoire with people of very high class. The book is set in the late 1800s, 1900s, and I loved the aspect of this. I loved the descriptive clothes and the beautiful like cobbled streets and horses and carriages and the balls and the parties. I just loved the dynamic between the very old-fashioned way that she had to be presented in society and the way her family thought of her, compared to the battling aspect, like the way the family are so chill and obviously expectant of her to become a shadow hunter and fight, when during that time that would have been unforeseen for someone, especially a woman, during that time. So for it to be very much like, oh, you must be well presented and have these beautiful gowns and dresses, and most of them that her mum picked for her, and had to have her hair in a certain way and very clean and proper, and for that compared to her getting in battle gear which is very tight fitted and fighting with a huge beautiful descriptive sword that I think is going to be very prominent more in the second book. I know it was talked about a lot in the first and this one, but there is going to be a second and third one. The first thing I did after reading this book was check that there is going to be more books, which thank God there are. So there's going to be, after this one, Chain of Iron and Chain of Thorns. So it should be a 3-parter, and I'm firstly going to say I hated the ending. I had a feeling they were going to lead up to a cliffhanger. I had a feeling they were going to do something that made you need to read the second one, because with books like this they have to, and I feel like Cassandra Clare is very notorious for leaving you always wanting something more from the characters. Something's not finished, something's not been said, there's just this need to know what's going to happen next, and you have such a strong relationship with some of these characters. So Cordelia is the main character. She's beautiful and strong and independent, but she is in love with James, who is the sister of her best friend, who is the brother of her best friend, and who's called Lucy. I think Lucy is such a lovely, playful, strong character. I feel like she is going to come into play more with her ghost qualities. So if you haven't read the book, James and Lucy are Herondales, and Herondales have a unique quality of being able to connect with ghosts. They can talk and see ghosts, and Lucy in particular can communicate with ghosts. And throughout this book you learn that not only can she communicate with ghosts, not all of which everyone can see, she can communicate with ghosts that not even her brother can see, or the rest of her family. And also she can command ghosts, which you learn in a deeper scene towards the end. And she, I feel, is going to have a very, very important scene later on in the series. I feel like her qualities have been kept quite secret in this book. No one else knows what she's doing or what she's getting up to, and I feel like her unique qualities are going to be really important in the later scenes, where I feel like something's going to go down. I feel like there's going to be a very difficult scene for all of them going to be coming up, based on the fact that James fell in love when he was younger, or we believe to think that he fell in love, but it might be actually that he was forced to fall in love. A girl called Grace. Now Grace is shown at the beginning to be this secret that James has kind of kept, where they go on vacation and their house is next to Grace's house, and she is kept hidden away, and she kind of grows attached to James. She kind of tests him quite a few times at the beginning, and then by sudden luck she comes to London as well, and it's kind of interesting to see him fall after this girl who he clearly, you get the impression, is infatuated with, yet he has this real draw and past connection with Cordelia, and you can see Cordelia is getting more and more attached, spending time with him, and you can see how her love for him has grown through past experiences, and how she's been there for James through most of his life and his difficulties. And you can see how he's almost fighting at some points himself to say how much he loves Grace, but he doesn't, and he ends up feeling and knowing that he doesn't. But then you find out later that Grace's family has had dealings with dark magic, and she herself has used something to control James. And I wanted to throw the book so hard across the room, because I just, you fight in kind of Cordelia to be with James, and there's some really romantic scenes between them that start heating it up. And also you've got one of James's friends, Matthew, who is also really falling for Cordelia and sees her strength and her capability, but he is very damaged, and I feel like he doesn't think he is good enough to even attempt to be with anyone, including Cordelia. And that's quite sad to read this kind of darkness in him, and he's a very almost background character. So I'll be interested. I really want to read more about Matthew and Lucy. I feel like are going to be very prominent in the next book, I hope, because I've quite fallen in love with their characters. Now, I hated the end because Grace takes control back of James, and sadly Cordelia has no idea that James is being influenced at all, and they were really starting to strike up a strong connection, and sadly James convinces Cordelia that he is in love with Grace. He will always be in love with Grace, but they can't be together. So to make a good thing work, he convinces Cordelia that they should get married. They should get engaged. They'll be engaged for a year. And that's good. I don't get it. I'm really angry because Cordelia deserves more, in my opinion. I think she deserves more. I know James, not his fault. He is being completely controlled by Grace. But throughout the entire book, he's either falling after her, moping after her, or comparing to her. And even when he's completely away from her, and he can tell that his vision's been a bit cloudy and he's not too sure he was ever in love with Grace, he still compares, and he still doesn't hold Cordelia in a huge regard. He senses her in a lot of dreams. He senses her when he's in a dark place. Well, more senses the sword that she carries from her family. But mainly, I just think he hasn't earned the heroine of the book. He hasn't earned her, in my opinion, and she has quite, because she loves him, she's kind of followed his lead, and she's kind of agreed to wait and just kind of hope for the best, I think. And I just think, I just want to see her stand up and say, no, I'm not being treated like this, either to her brother, to her mum. Lucy and her relationship's really sweet. I love the element that Lucy is writing a book and creating this whole little world for Cordelia. I think that is so beautiful and so adorable. I think their relationship is really strong, and it's very positive. It's a very positive influence for both of them, and I hope there's more scenes of them becoming parabatai. I really would like to see them fight together and see their strengths just grow through the series. So overall, I did love and enjoy the majority of the book. I love the story and the captivating characters with all of their individual quirks. There's a lot more characters to go through, so if you want a more in-depth book review, then I can sit and go through each of the characters' breakdown. But more than anything, I think Cassandra Clare has a great way to engulf and entrap you in such a beautiful world that you just want to keep reading. So I'm not surprised she always brings out series and has to bring out one or two or not even more of a book, because you just can't learn about a whole world in a matter of pages. It takes a whole it takes a whole tree to create a story that's so captivating and stays within your heart. So I loved this book. I do really recommend it. I know it is quite a lot. It's quite a commitment, especially if there's going to be more. I wonder if they're going to be as chunky as this. But I definitely would recommend it. I put a link down in the description below, as I always do, so check it out if you can. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the subscribe button and like this video as well. It just helps me and helps my channel, and I hope to see you soon in the next video. Bye.